Yes, gratitude. It's a joy, pleasure. It's an honor once more to be here another Saturday and speaking about the power of realization and how important it is to empower ourselves with knowledge that must be applied in our lives so we can prove for ourselves what is here for us to inherit, because we all have been given an inheritance and you must claim your inheritance. Okay, every one of us has been given a mind, and every one of us, we came here on this journey by ourselves alone, and we have to leave by ourselves alone. That is why it's very, very important for you to realize that true salvation is self-realization, and that only you alone can speak of your experience. Someone else can have an experience for you. Someone else can have a thought for you. Okay, so as we get in more into why the God in you, who is the higher self, why he delights in your prosperity, and how you need to know that it is the will of the Almighty, who is the creative power in you, your higher self, your true self. It is his will that you would prosper, that you would get into that abundance frequency, because that's his nature. If you look around you, you would see that everything around you, it brings forth in abundance. And that abundance that is coming forth is to teach us of our own self. It's a reflection of what is within us. And that is why it is very, very important for you to understand that you are a spirit having a human experience. And it's very important for you to know that many of the things that people have been reading in the Bible and believing it to be things that do happen on the outside, instead of realizing it always takes place first on the inside. The people who do not realize that, they will go on living their lives and keep believing that the Bible is literal and that the Bible is secular history. That is why it's always important for me to share the 66 books of magic, the Overcomer's Bible, which I have right here with me. So always important for me to share this Bible with you, and it's dedicated to Abdullah and Neville Garden. And it's all about teaching you how to look within yourself, because the kingdom of God is within you. That is why I just want to read one verse from this Bible, from Psalms 35. I believe it's the 27th verse. Okay, so Psalms chapter 35, the 27th verse, and in this Bible it's page 517. Okay, 517. Okay, in the 66 books of magic, the Overcomers Bible. Okay, what I'm gonna do I'm going to read for you, and then I'm just going to continue to interact with you. Now, it says here in Psalms chapter 35 and verses 27, it says, let them shout for joy and be glad that favor my righteous cause. Yea, let them say continually, let the Lord be magnified, which had pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. Let me just repeat this part. Which had pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. Now, the very first thing you have to realize is that Psalms chapter 35 is teaching you of your higher self and your lower self. So when you speak about the opposition and all the challenges and all the obstacles, all of these stumbling blocks that you have to face to come to this place of understanding that it is the pleasure, it's the joy, the happiness of the God in you to bring you into prosperity. So when it says servant, it is teaching you that it's all about servant and master. And until you realize that your body is the servant, which represents the carnal mind, and there will always be war between the carnal mind and the mind of Christ, which is your higher self, your inner self. So this body, this fleshly body, has certain desires. But you have to restrict this body to prove that you understand that you must be in control of your mind, because the mind controls the body. And in order for you to be in full control of your body, is that you have to be in full control, first of all, of your mind. So when you're in control of your mind, you bring peace and joy, not just to your inner self alone, but to your entire being, both physical and spiritual, both outer and inner. So many people read Psalms chapter 35 and believe it is speaking about people who's against them and people who have things against them and people who've been saying things against them and so on, and they keep looking outside of themselves and blaming someone who would have done something against them, something they may think that is bad or evil against them, or something that may hurt their feeling. And they believe that it's speaking about someone outside of themselves to be the enemy. But your real enemy is actually your lower self, your carnal mind. So when you understand the Bible psychologically, you start to understand that when you read all of these verses in Psalms chapter 35, and you're thinking that it's speaking of people outside of yourself, it is showing you states of mind or states of consciousness. Because you see, if you just seeing people outside of yourself, it means you're just seeing things in the fleshly realm. But when you go deeper, you would realize that no one can do anything or say anything that wasn't first a thought or first an idea, that wasn't first imagined. So you realize it's all still mental. It doesn't matter how you look at it, it will always go back to be mental and psychological. It will always go back to a thought. So, my brother and my sisters, prosperity brings joy. to the God that is within you. So it means that if God is having a human experience, then the greatest experience that God can have in the physical realm is understanding how to create. Because that was the power that you lost when you descended into generation to have a human experience. Therefore, if you must be redeemed, if you must be renewed, if you must be born again, if you have to discover salvation or you need salvation, it is because you have lost something or you have forgotten something, and you're told that when you receive this power, the main thing this power going to do is bring what? All things to your remembrance. So if you be truly being empowered, what you will come back to, you will come back to that remembrance of your creative self. And that's how you discover that God in man delights in the prosperity of his servant. The outer man must prosper. This is his servant. So if you want to travel to a certain distance and you have a faster way and an easier way to get there, so you can utilize your time and utilize whatever gift or whatever ability or whatever business or whatever you're doing, you would definitely appreciate the fact that you have that option. And so when we activate the power that is in us and get a frequency in terms of knowing that we can create our reality consciously, we have to understand that we must vibrate in the energy of joy and happiness. And to do that, we have to embrace ourselves. We have to love ourselves and understand that we must overcome our lower self. So fear, doubt, and all of these limiting beliefs, these are the enemies that Psalms 35 is speaking about that will come against you. And you're calling on the Lord, which is the higher self, to deliver you, to help you. If you read that chapter for yourself, you see that it's showing you the poor is always crying out. The poor is always seeking for deliverance. Because it all have to do with the mindset that we cultivate from a child. And we see this system is set up to point us into the direction of cultivating a mindset of lack and a mindset of limitation. That's why many people read the Bible and they look at Psalms chapter 35 and they will never realize that it is teaching you that you are to move from a place of poverty to a place of prosperity, that you're supposed to expand, that you're supposed to grow, that you're supposed to prosper, because it's a pleasure, it is a delight of God, because you're reflecting God when you prosper, you're reflecting God when you expand, you're reflecting God when you grow, you're reflecting God when you create. How could you say that there's a creator and you believe in a creator and you're not creating? You should be able to create your reality consciously. You're supposed to be able to prophesy events in your life and events in the life of others, because you can create consciously, because you understand. Everything is energy, vibration, and frequency. So if you're going to discover your creative self in order to overcome this self that is going to keep you limited, as I am speaking from Psalms chapter 35, okay? Because I didn't go through all of the verses, I only go to the conclusion of it, okay? Because throughout the verses is showing you the lower self and how the lower self will attack you and try to keep you in a box and so on, okay? And then showing you how you should break forth, okay? And have those, okay, which is actually those lower thoughts is speaking about. But it is reflecting as if it is speaking of persons outside of yourself, okay? Because remember, your thoughts is what basically create your personality, okay? So that's what it's showing you. So it's showing you now that you've been struggling and you've been facing a lot in life. And it's saying to you that, hey, there's no one to blame but yourself. If there's no enemy without, the enemy, if there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do you no harm. It's all within. So instead of the Lord, he's speaking about the inner self. And he said the Lord has pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. So every one of us must understand master and servant. Master here, this is servant. That is why, my brother, my sisters, what I'm going to say here to you, I don't want you to take it in any wrong way. But just as your mind would direct your body and send your body into whatever direction it wants it to go, it's basically the same thing when you go to a job and it have a hierarchy system, okay, and there are those who can tell you go here, go there, go there, and when to come here, and when to come here, and so on, okay. And all of that have to do with the here and here. Now you can vibrate to a higher level where you become here and find yourself in the same position like that person who was telling you go here, go there, and sometimes, in some cases, some people will say, yes, boss, yes, boss. So, in other words, the man who was once an employee, he can become an employer if he changes his mind. And how is he going to do that? He has to face all of his enemies, which is his limiting beliefs, his mind, his thoughts, his low thoughts, his negative thoughts. Only then can the Lord or his I amness or his true God self could reveal himself to him and bring him in a place of prosperity. Now, mind you, I'm speaking about conscious prosperity, because there are people who prosper and have millions and millions and millions of dollars and they want to commit suicide. Because why? They have never overcome their lower self. But when you know consciously, because you have certain experience, you would know that these things that we can achieve in this life, they all are here because of transmutation of energy. And all of us, we are mass of energy. So we want to attract these things to us. We have to change our mindset. So this whole chapter, okay, in Psalms 35, it's all dealing with the mind. It's not speaking of the person who living next to you who you think is your enemy. It is speaking about someone who you think is of another race, who you think is your enemy. It is not speaking of anyone outside of yourself to be your enemy, and you're calling hard and ill and so on your enemy because your enemy is so much against you and you want God to deliver you, because there are many people who use the Psalms and say, okay, they're going to read the Psalms and that person, they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and fail to realize that they're only hurting themselves. So it's showing you about your higher self and your lower self. So my brother, my sisters, in short, okay, what I'm saying to you, the key to prosperity in anyone's life is that they must change the concept, the present tense concept that they're holding about themselves. Because if they're getting a certain result, it's because they're holding a certain concept of themselves. And I'm speaking from experience. I know the kind of concept I was holding about myself when I was well involved in secular Christianity. And I see now, when I leave secular Christianity and I now start thinking for myself, I see the difference. So I'm speaking from results, and results don't lie. So my brother and my sisters, when you look deep within yourself and you realize that you were thinking negatively all the time, then you will realize that your enemy is actually yourself. It's a negative self. So then you will realize when you read Psalms chapter 35, okay, all of this reading about your enemy and those who are against you and those who want to do this and those who want to do that, you realize, hey, it was me. Because remember, no one can share the same space with you unless you attract them. You see, you know they say sometimes birds of feather flock together. And even the Bible says two cannot walk together unless they agree. So if you find yourself in a certain situation, if you find yourself in a certain neighborhood and you don't like the neighborhood, it is because it's saying to you, you must vibrate out of that neighborhood by lifting your vibration and going higher than those who are actually living in the neighborhood. Because certain neighborhood carry certain energy and so on. Certain places carry certain energy. Certain communities carry certain energy. There's certain communities where there are always violence. There's certain communities where there are always drugs. And there are certain communities where they're just strictly prosperous or rich people living in that community. And most of the time you find that community is a more quiet community. And you will see idlers in such a community. And then you see those people who live in a certain community, they drive in a certain kind of car, or they live in a certain kind of house. But I'm saying to you, all of that comes from transmutation of energy. So when we change our thoughts or change our thinking, there's a certain chemistry that is taking place within, but you're not seeing the chemistry that is taking place within. That is why each and every time I bring a word to you and I encourage you to believe in yourself, and I encourage you to love yourself, and I encourage you to understand your higher self and your lower self, to understand the master and the servant, and understand it's a game, it's a play, and it's like a movie, and you're the star in the movie. But if you don't want to play the star in the role and you want to be an extra, okay, in your own movie, well, so be it, because that's your choice. But you are the director and so on, and the star, the producer, everything in your own movie. So that's why you have to decide what part you want to play. So my brother and my sisters, my whole encouragement to you is that whatever result you want in your life, it's all up to you. All you have to do is be definite about what you want. Write down what you want and be definite about it. It must feel natural to you. If it doesn't feel natural to you, you would doubt. And be you trust and believe that the inner you is God. And you go into visualization. You learn to calm your mind down. And you learn to focus. And you practice till you have a vivid imagination. And there you act out your movie how you want it to be. That's why, my brother and my sister, it's very important for you to understand that God is your higher self. And that there's no God outside of you. That is why you have to break those bonds of slavery if you want to come into true prosperity. Okay? So, with that being said, my brother and my sister, I want to give you a chance to, be interactive. And if you have any question, I'll be willing to answer. If you want to interact, we can interact. Okay? Let me see. Okay. Thank you, my brother, for donating. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to have you. I'm getting a little bit of problem here. Let me see. I'm not even getting to see the comments here. Maybe I need to refresh. Refresh. Let me just refresh. Okay, let me just refresh and see what's going on. So, as I was saying, I'm giving you the chance to be interactive, and if you have any question, I just want to remind you that we were dealing with Psalms chapter 35, and I was explaining to you that Psalms chapter 35 is dealing with you, your higher self and your lower self. It's not speaking of anyone outside of yourself. So don't think of your enemy as someone outside of yourself, because if you believe that, it would stop you from prospering. Okay, I'm getting through now. Okay, it will stop you from prospering, and it is blocking up the wells, okay, of prosperity from you when you think that way. Because that is like a person who believing that there's a devil outside of themselves and fail to realize that their negative thoughts is actually what is called the devil, or the self-doubt. Okay? So it's very important because for people to know that, because I've heard many people who read Psalms 35, try to read Psalms 35 to believe that they can, that people is the enemy, and they read in Psalms 35, to chant some spell against them and so on, and fail to realize that they will just destroy their own self. Okay? Greetings, Caribbean Mystic. June 11, greetings. But Patriot, my brother, greetings. Nice having you in this chat. John, greetings to you. It's nice having you on the chat also. Okay. Universal flow. There is only one mind, divine mind. That is so true. Infinitely manifest. But those who are ignorant of this try to limit the mind within the mesmeric boundaries of the five physical senses. And this is saying that these people trying to live in the carnal mind. Okay? They're living in the mind of the five senses, in the realm of the five senses, just like the animals. They live at that level also. The human mind, which can only think of good and evil, beginnings. What else? I'm not seeing the rest. Let me see. Okay, let me just go back up a little. Okay. The human mind, which can only think of good and evil, beginnings, and end. So as my brother was saying, everything is mental, everything is psychological. And when you dwell in the realm of the five senses, you're limiting yourself. You're keeping yourself at the level of the animals because you're failing to vibrating out of the five senses and coming to the sixth sense, your super sense, your God sense. I remember I wrote a chapter in my book, Meditate to Eradicate Poverty, called Common Sense. What is common sense? It's your God sense. And so when people do not vibrate in their common sense, then the system, what the system would have taught them is what they're going to depend on and get trapped in the realm of the five senses and living in false knowing, intellectualism. So it is very, very important for us to really look deep within ourselves and seek to get into the sixth sense, that super sense, and get out of the realm of the five senses. Okay? So thank you very much, Reality Flow. It's really a joy and a pleasure. You have always been supporting this work, and I'm so grateful. And I see God multiplying back to you everything 100-fold. Okay, but Patria, I just got your recent book on the book result. Thank you very much. And in that book, I remember I mentioned concerning other developers would come and they would offer the people just a little bit more money, and everybody gonna just forget what the first developer did when he took all the money and he didn't pay them and anything like that. Okay, so right now it's I'm trying to remember the name of the new hotel that they're gonna open at that same place. Oh yeah, Sandals. Sandals now, so now it changed from Mukumembe Resort now to Sandals by it over, but it's the same thing happening. Okay, let me just read someone because I wanna come to a close. I'm gonna close very early today. I focus on being a writer, and today in an incense store, I met a girl who specializes in ebook. We struck up a conversation. We are going to meet up to help publish some of my stories. You see, all things work together for good. There is no coincidence, okay? Sometimes people overlook these kind of manifestations because they're so small and they miss the mustard seed principle. That's why many times people do not see the signs of the manifestation that is taking place in their lives. That's why many people do not recognize prosperity, because they see prosperity when it's big and everybody can see it. But when it is happening in a small way, even the Bible tells you never despise the small things or their small beginnings. Never forget the mustard seed principle. Always remember the mustard seed principle. So my brother Baptist, I want to encourage you to continue to do what you're doing because you're getting results, okay? And don't take those things slightly, okay? It's very good when you can pick up those simple manifestations. Everything starts small. Even us, we came here very small, and we start to creep before we walk. And then we start to walk before we run also, okay? Always walk with the principles and the laws that governs all of us. Omari, greetings, my brother. Nice having you. I had a fortune cookie that says impossible. is a word only to be found in the dictionary of fools. And the dictionary of fools would be the mind. Okay? Because all things are possible. Once you can see it, and you can believe it, you can manifest it. Okay? Anything at all that you see in this world that has already been invented and it's here, all remember how it started. It was first a thought. It was first an idea in someone's mind. Always remember that. And if they could have taken that thought and manifest it into this product or service or whatever it is telling you that you can do the same and that it's all mind power. Okay? Congratulations. Thank you very much, Jimas 11. I believe you're. Oh, no, I don't think that's for me. That's for someone else. Okay. Okay, let me just read this last one here. Dreamers 11, indeed, in the small things is where our strength lies. Now, many people do not realize that in the small things is where our strength lies. And that is why many people miss what is happening in their life and miss out on the manifestations that would take place in their life in a very small way. Any form of expansion you see in your life is a sign to you of abundance and prosperity. But you must embrace it. That's why I do not ever walk in the street and pass a coin. Once I see a coin, I take up that coin. It doesn't matter how old that coin would look. Once I pass a coin and I see the coin, I'm going to take up that coin. Because what I'm doing, I'm showing gratitude. I am grateful that I can see that coin and I can take up that coin and see that there's value in that coin. You see, for example, a person might see, say, 5 cents and they might think that doesn't have any value. But let's say 1 billion people was to give you 5 cents. You see how much money that would be. If 5 billion people was to give you just 5 cents or just 10 cents, you see how much it would be. So everything is valuable, and it is very important for you to know the value of your mind. It is very important for you to know how powerful you are and learn to use that power, which is the power of the mind, to achieve your every desire. That's how you're going to come into prosperity. So when it says that God delights and has pleasure in the prosperity of his servant, it is the inner man who delights and has pleasure in the prosperity of the outer man. Get it? Everything from the outside came from the inside. That's God in man. Don't make nobody fool you. Okay. Universal flow, how do you know if your house is built on a rock or sand? You can't know if your house is built on rock and sand unless you know who you are. The first thing you have to do is know who you are. That's the greatest thing a person can ever attain in this life, discovering the self, just knowing exactly who you are. Because when you know who you are, you know that you can create. And when you know that you can create, and you can create consciously, and you prove it in your life, it is because of experience that you know. It doesn't based on what anyone says. So when you try to build based on what you hear other people say, or based on what you read in a book, whether it's in the Bible or any other book, instead of you having an experience for your own self. If you ain't do that, then you're building on the sand. To build on the rock, you must be sure. You must be able to say, look, I put my imagination to work for me. I do it morning, noon, and night. And here is the result. Because results don't lie. But the reason why sometimes people get discouraged and allow doubt and fear to step in is because sometimes they miss the little signs that is telling you that this thing is going to manifest in your life. Because they fail to realize that there is an in-between, there's a series of events that must add up to bring you to that point. Okay. I don't want to go too long today for sure, trust me. Okay, June 250 million in the planter story. Some fall among stony grounds, etc. Does that refer to our imaginal act as well? Like some will fall on good ground and some not. Yes, exactly. So because what happened when you're believing for something and you allow doubts and you allow fear and so on to step in, especially if you allow it to happen over and over and over again, that is like you taking a spiritual abortion. Okay, you're getting rid of the pregnancy before there's any delivery, or before you could give birth, or before birth could be given. Okay, so it's the same thing when you allow doubt and fear to step in. And that is why the more knowledge of self you get, and the more you understand that the Bible is all about you and it's all about the mind, it's the more you'll be empowered, because you'll be able to trust more in the things that you can see in your mind's eye vividly. Okay? I don't want to go much longer, but let me say this. There's a guy who's a multi-millionaire, and he has so many Lamborghinis and so on. Okay? And I was looking at a video where he was talking to another multi-millionaire, and as a matter of fact, at the end of most of his videos, he always speak to the other millionaires and tell them, okay, drop a little gem for the people. Tell them how you get successful and so on. And I've been following them for a good while now, and all of them is saying the same thing. All of them is saying the same thing, one thing. And I'm saying to you, my brother and my sisters, if you can see it clearly, if you can see it vividly in your imagination and walk towards making it possible by believing in yourself, and learn to connect the dots when small things are happening in your life, and realize that this is teaching me that it is possible and it's already done, everything already done. It just me vibrating to that level and that frequency. It's gonna happen. I've been listening to all of these multi-millionaires speak, and I know it's all of them is saying the same thing. One man with a castle, he said, you remember he used to take pictures out of magazines with castles and stick them up, vehicles. Even before he had a Lamborghini, he had a picture of a Lamborghini stick up in his room. Same principle. Sometimes some of these brothers will say, some people think, well, it has to be more difficult than that. It's supposed to be more challenging. They cannot believe that it is so simple. You see, some people tend to forget that there was a period of time when they had to walk. I should say creep. They had to creep first. Then there's a period of time that it hardly could even walk, much less to run. You have to understand those principles. This principle could never fail. It could never fail you. I mean, I learned this at a what I wouldn't say late age, but at an older age. And some people have been taught this from the time they came out of the mother womb. They been teach these kind of principles. So my brothers, my sisters, let me just read this one more here and come to a close here. Okay, it's about 45 minutes now. Okay, thank you for this wonderful live chat. Keep blessing us and yourself with the wisdom, your God's, which is your God self. Love you to the end of the world. One love, my brother. We have to love each other because each and every one of us is just our own self pushed out. Okay, we are all one. It's just one universal consciousness, one universal flow. May the blessing of the ancestors be unto you. May the blessing of the ancestors be unto you also. So, my brothers and my sisters, I want to come to a close here. I just want to continue to encourage you to always remember that everything that you're reading in the Bible, it has to do with your lower self and your higher self. Okay, the devil is your self-doubt. Okay, it's your lower self. God is your higher self, it's the higher mind. So as you vibrate into the higher mind, you realize that things will start changing in your life. As you start changing your thinking, everything will start changing around you, including your finances. So my brothers, my sisters, if what you're seeing in your life, you need more, you need expansion, all you have to do is work on your mind, work on yourself. Okay, because the only thing that is blocking your abundance, the only thing that is blocking your prosperity is you. You are the only stumbling block there is. So, with that being said, my brother and my sisters, I just want to encourage you to continue to believe in your imagination, because imagination is God in man. So peace, love you all. I'm out.